Heidi ho, folks. Heidi ho. Hold on, let me get my fiends in line. Got one, two. Alright. I think everybody remembers yesterday when fucking Trump was talking about how amazing they got the Strait open, that he's the greatest president of the goddamn country. Remember that? That was just yesterday, what wasn't it? Iran says Strait of Hormuz is open as Trump says blockade will remain in full force. Doesn't that sound amazing? Doesn't that sound great? Look at this. Iran's foreign minister Abbas announced the Strait of Hormuz is completely open as of Friday morning, one day after Lebanon and Israel agreed to ceasefire. However, it is not clear how much shipping traffic has resumed, and the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports continues. In line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, passengers for all commercial vessels through Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of the ceasefire on the coordinated route as announced by Ports and Maritime Organization of the Islamic Rep of Iran. Argachiki said in a post on X. It is funny how we are living in times where the heads of the representatives of Iran, all those people, you know what I mean? They just post everything. It's like when a killer in Chicago kills somebody and then just immediately post it to Twitter. Shout out Vaughn. You know, it leaves a breadcrumb of fucking evidence and that we can look back on to see. We can look back on all this shit and learn from it next year because these motherfuckers are retarded. Look at this. President Trump praised the announcement on Truth Social. Iran has just announced that the Strait of Iran is fully open and ready for full passage. The president wrote, "Thank you." Amazing news, right? Amazing news. Okay. 10-day ceasefire. Yeah, it was supposed to remain open for the 10-day ceasefire. So 10 days it would be, though that would be open because it was a ceasefire. It was peaceful. Israel strikes continued in Lebanon even after a separate U.S.-Israel ceasefire in Tehran, which called for Strait to fully open. The U.S. and Israel said Lebanon was not included in their deal, but Iran said it was, leading to the country to close the Strait after only opening for a pre-period. The Strait was already open before all that shit happened. They only closed it during the ceasefire when Israel attacked Lebanon damn near an hour, 2 hours after the ceasefire began. And that's why it was closed. And now they're reopened for another ceasefire. And but guess what? Ba-bang, boom, ba-bam. Iran says it has closed the Strait of Hormuz again 1 hour ago today. Let's pick the best article. The Hill, AP News, fuck it. Hopefully. Okay. The standoff over the Strait of Hormuz quickly escalated again Saturday as Iran reversed its reopening of crucial waterway and fired on ships attempting to pass in retaliation after the United States pressed ahead with blockade, choking off Iranian ports. Confusion over Strait, through which roughly 1/5 of the world's oil passes. Damn, 1/5 of the world's oil. I heard it was 1/5, and then I heard it was like 2/4 or some shit. Like, no, not 2/4, 2/5 of the world oil is passing through, threatened to deep in the energy crisis, rolling the global economy and pushed the two countries toward renewed conflict. The ceasefire between them is due to run out by next week, and Pakistan mediators are working to put together a new round of direct negotiations to keep the truce going. Iran's Joint Military Command said Saturday that Council of the Strait of Hormuz has returned to previous state under strict management and control of armed forces. It was warned that it would continue to block transit through the strait as long as the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports remained in effect. Revolutionary Guards gunboats on Saturday opened fire on a tanker transiting. I can't fucking read, my bad. Revolutionary Guard gunboats on Saturday opened fire on a tanker transiting the strait, and unknown projectile hit a container vessel, damaging some of the containers. The British military's United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations Center said without identifying the vessels. Tankertrackers.com reported that two Indian-flagged vessels were forced to turn around after being fired on by Iran, including a supertanker carrying Iraqi oil. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Let me read a little bit more. And we'll address Iran's nuclear program. How long has Iran had a nuclear program? When did threats about Iran having a nuke begin? Having a new begin? No, a nuke. Thinking. Threats and international concerns regarding Iran having a nuclear weapon began to intensify in the early 2000s, accelerating in August 2002. Early 2000s, August 2002. Was that when 9/11 happened? While Iran's nuclear program dates back to the 1950s under the U.S. Atoms for Peace program, it was revived in the 90s, and the focus on nuclear weapons acquisition became a critical international issue for specific events. Okay. The Iranian opposition NCRI revealed the existence of secret undeclared nuclear facilities at Natanz and Iraq. Early 1990s warning reports indicate even in 95, Israeli officials, specifically Benjamin Netanyahu, were claiming Iran was 3 to 5 years from producing a nuclear weapon. In the 90s. Post 2003 focus, while Western intelligence suggests structured military program, the AMAD project, was paused in 2003, concerns persisted about Iran's technological capabilities and potential to resume efforts, leading to ongoing sanctions and threats of action. 2006 enrichment. Iran resumed uranium enrichment in 2006, leading to UN Security Council resolutions. In recent years, particularly following the U.S. withdrawal from the nuclear deal in 2018, concerns have escalated regarding Iran's enrichment of uranium to 60% purity, which is close to 90%, which is needed for weapon-grade level material. So, I think the most important takeaway is this one. Early 1990s warning. Reports indicate that in 95, Israeli officials, specifically Benjamin Netanyahu, were claiming Iran was 3 to 5 years from producing a nuclear weapon. Then Netanyahu threatens to nuke Iran while Obama is president. Look at that one up. To Israel's survival, advocate for military action against facilities. Historical records and official statements from that period highlight several key tensions. Netanyahu repeatedly urged President Obama to order or support a conventional military strike on Iran's nuclear installations. So Benjamin Netanyahu has been trying to start this war since Obama, but since the 90s to Obama. During his 2012 UN General Assembly speech, Netanyahu used cartoonish diagram of Obama to illustrate a red line for Iran's uranium enrichment, stating that Israel would act to prevent Iran from reaching that stage. Netanyahu's stance was only a combination of tough sanctions and credible military threat that could peacefully prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. He emphasized that if forced to stand alone, Israel would defend itself against Iranian threats. Isn't that crazy? Then, why haven't they done so? Why did they wait till Trump was in office? It was us. Initiated by the United States and Israel. Nice. So, Operation Epic Fury was definitely the start of World War III. And we, the United States, have to fucking kick Israel out of our clutches. You gotta stop supporting Israel. For Iran closure, the Strait imposed after U.S. Israel launched their surprise war in the country February 28th. It has proven to perhaps be its most powerful weapon in confrontation, causing oil prices to spike, threatening the world economy, and inflicting political pain on Trump. Yep. On Friday, Iran announced reopening the Strait of commercial vessels. A 10-day truce was sealed between Israel and Iranian-backed Hezbollah militant group in Lebanon. The reopening triggered a fall in oil prices. Iran's closure of the Strait since triggered an energy crisis that has roiled the global economy. The U.S. President Donald Trump, however, said that even with the reopening of the American blockade will remain in full force until Tehran reaches a deal with the U.S. Trump imposed a blockade, halting all ships to and from Iranian ports as the ceasefire between Iran and the U.S. was announced last week to keep pressures on Iran to make a deal in the Pakistan brokered talks to end almost 7 weeks of war. His comment triggered immediate outcry from Iranian officials, calling the blockade a violation that would prompt reclosure of the strait. So, wait. The American blockade, what is that? How a U.S. blockade near the Strait of Hormuz could work and okay. A blockade of Iranian ports, the president said, would begin on Monday, could further disrupt oil prices and has spurred questions about international laws, leave doubts that whether the pressure tactic will force Tehran to reopen the vital Strait of Hormuz. Trump threatened to impose a blockade after talks of further fragile ceasefire ended with a deal this past weekend. Iran has previously halted all tanker traffic through the key waterway, allowing only some ships perceived as friendly to pass while charging considerable fees. Okay. Let me read that. Iran has previously halted all tanker. Yep. Enforcing the blockade is likely to demand significant reinforcements from the U.S. Navy and could prompt concerns about the military force and international law, as per se. Supply chain analysts, meanwhile, stress the restrictions could undermine the flow of oil, fertilizer, food, and other goods, and consumers are already facing higher prices. How the U.S. could enforce a blockade of Iranian ports? Successfully enforcing a blockade will require sustained commitment of the U.S. Navy ships and personnel, as well as clear guidance from the Trump administration and Navy's legal team. Navy's legal department, experts say. American military officials have offered a few details. The U.S. has 16 warships in the Middle East, a defense official said. A second defense official said no warships are in the Persian Gulf, the body of water that forms most of Iran's coastline. Both speak on condition of anonymity to discuss its sensitive military operations. That's crazy. There we go. That's false information. Okay. Everybody must understand to what extent American side is risking the whole ceasefire package, he says, speaking after a diplomatic forum in Antalya, Turkey. Ebrahim Mazi, head of the Iranian Parliament's National Security Commission, said that the Strait was returning to status quo, which he had earlier described as ships requiring Iranian naval authorization and toll payment before transiting. A data firm, Kepler, said movement through the Strait remained confined to corridors requiring Iran's approval. U.S. forces sent 21 ships back to Iran since the blockade began on Monday. Then 21 ships back. That's crazy. The renewed standoff with the Strait comes hours after the Pakistani Foreign Minister Sheikh Dor told the forum that the country's diplomats were working to bridge differences between the U.S. and Iran. Still don't get why it was closed. Ah, okay. So because of the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports has remained, yeah, you know what I'm saying. Because of that, they decided to reblock that shit. You know. 2.5 minute listen. Let's see if Santa's posted it yet. Iran, yeah, there we go. Iran closes, saying the waterway is under strict control. On Saturday morning, United Kingdom maritime operations said there were attacks on the tanker and the container ship in the Strait. Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. This comes a day after Iranian Foreign Ministry Abbas Araghchi announced the Strait of Hormuz is open. President Trump at the time praised the decision on Truth Social. Even though the Strait of Hormuz is open, Trump said a maritime blockade on ships entering or exiting Iranian ports and coastal areas would still be in place. So even though the Strait is open, they're still blocking Iranian ports and their own vessels, Iranian vessels. I'm guessing when that's Iran Strait, you feel me? That's Iranian Strait. They control that shit. You know what I'm saying? Not the U.S. Even though the Strait of Hormuz was open, Trump said, yeah, okay. The Iranian military spokesperson cited the blockade as the reason why the strait is now closed. See, that's what I just said. Since the blockade started Monday, U.S. Central Command said 23 ships have complied with the U.S. forces' mandate to turn around. Speaking to reporters on Friday, Trump said if a deal between Iran and the U.S. isn't reached before a temporary ceasefire ends, the blockade will remain. Unfortunately, we'll have to start dropping bombs again. Still, he had, I think it's going to happen. We are going to have to drop bombs again. On whose behalf? Our behalf, because we pay for those bombs. That's all I got for today. Strait of Hormuz closed.